speech is very common nowadays, unfortunately. I would say it's a rising issue everywhere, but the use of it depends. Like, it depends on the society and where you live, because each society has their own important things that they care about and that they don't care about. So for example, here in Norway, and I mean, unfortunately, that I will have to bring COVID into the conversation even here. But even COVID has been a reason to target people for hate speech. So, for example, there was this report in Norway about a certain group of people that they are exposed to COVID more than others. And these group of people are immigrants. So of course now, like when you got to newspapers and Facebook posts and things like that, you would see people talking like, oh, these immigrants and, you know, all these hate speech kind of things. And that's very unfortunate, because I mean, that is true, but there is a reason behind it. If we reflect, these people are working in fields that are exposing them to COVID. There are, of course, also many other ways for hate speech. For example, there's this other report in Norway that was released, I think it was released in 2016, so it's not very recently, but it's still true. And it was about people with disabilities, that they experience hate speech more often than not. And in the report, or in the research, they were saying that they have interviewed, I think, around 1,000 people, and 30% of those people said that they have experienced hate speech in a way. So that's very unfortunate. And I think, you know, there are many incidents that have led to, I would say, easier access for hate speech, or like thinking about it maybe more often than before. For example, after the incident that happened in Utøya, the attack that happened by Breivik. So that was one reason, you know, that made people maybe a little bit more exposed, a little bit more aware of hate speech, positively or negatively. And there is also, I would say, the access of social media. Because you can just, you know, be sitting there reading that post and you're like, yeah, I don't think that's nice. And then you'd post something and you don't really think about it. And also, of course, I will not mention to forget people with minority background, for example, immigrants. I think they're one of the groups that is mostly exposed to hate speech. For example, I would like to give a disabled Muslim immigrant woman. So that's I would say maybe that makes me more exposed and probably like more eligible, I would say, for hate speech. So I think there is, you know, the groups that, like typical groups like women, for example, Black people. So yeah, these people are the most that are exposed to hate speech, I would say. Actually, hate speech in Norway is being confronted on, I would say, on many different levels. So, for example, government-wise, they have been working on a strategy for confronting hate speech. And of course, we all know that hate speech is like in the law. It can be punished. And then you have, you know, all those organizations and NGOs in Norway, for example, Stopp hatprat, the no hate speech movement that I'm a part of. And there are, of course, other organizations. You have, for example, something called Antirasistisk Center, which means the Anti-Racism Center. And then you have 22. Juli Center, which is named after the incident of the 22nd of July, the one I mentioned before. And of course, there are many different things as well. So these are, working on like workshops and events to spread awareness, and these are very easily accessed. So, for example, you have some online events that are being published, that you can just access from your home, and then you have other like local events and events like national events. So they're doing a very important job to spread awareness and to educate people more about hate speech. And then you have, and it's something I noticed, like it can be different for other people, but it's my experience. When I went to school, I saw that it was very clear to me that they were taking care of using, for example, texts and films and things that are directly or indirectly highlighting this issue. For example, hate speech or racism, or maybe even talking about minority groups. So I would say that was a very smart way, because the younger you are, the easier it is to have you reflect on that in a positive way or a negative way, depending on how they're trying to influence. But it's very easy to influence younger people, younger generations. And of course, there are also like other organizations that every year they go around schools and try to have these like workshops that are equally fun and educating. So that's very nice. And then you have, on an individual level, there are many people I see that are going on, on comment sections and trying to spread positivity and trying to stand with people who are being targeted or attacked, maybe I would say. And some of people who are just posting like positive messages and emoji, like heart emojis and all these, I think they are very important, because in a very heated discussion, you just need someone who'd be like, there is a place for all of us in this earth. There is one point that I would like to make, that even though hate speech is confronted, I would say, well, in Norway, we still have this issue that there are many people, most of the people actually, who experience hate speech, they don't speak up and they don't defend themselves. And I think that's very sad, because like, even though I mentioned that it's in the law, it's not allowed and it's punished, many people don't even report that or don't even take any action. So I would like to use this opportunity to say, to like, if anyone experiences hate speech, like, do not be afraid or worried to speak up, because this is like, Norway and other countries are countries where law prevails in a way. So I hope that we can all use this opportunity. I think there is a conflict actually between hate speech and also freedom of speech, because we are all born and we grow up with things that are sacred to us, but something that is sacred to me might not be sacred to someone else, might not be important to someone else. So that makes kind of an issue, because like we tend to get defensive when we hear about things that we care about, being criticized, for example. But at the same time, it's very important to criticize things, because we wouldn't be able to go forward if we don't do that. So it's an issue, because like, for example, many people who criticize, they like to be a bit like comical, or some people like to use this satire writing style that is very ironic, but they sometimes get misunderstood, and then people are like, why are you so aggressive, and at the same time, there are people, and for example, here in Norway, there are some politicians, and of course I will not mention names, but there are some politicians who are, I would say, they use hate speech, but in a very smart way, that it's kind of between the lines. You can't say it's hate speech directly, but it is. So they use, words and actions to manipulate people to believe them, and to kind of be drawn to them by emotions. But if you look, if you think about what they're saying, you'd be like, hey, this is really hate speech. What are you saying? So yeah, there is a line between them, but it's sometimes easier to cross than not.